We're on the road again, back to another road course, this time in Watkins Glen. Left and right turns, madness, mayhem. It's all coming up for you on the back road as we break down DFS and our favorite bets for this second road race in a row. Hang tight. It's coming up around the bend.
It's a non-points race, but it is a short race. Checker flag. That's all this race is.
Stay from the stage.
We can see Elliot. We can't hear Elliot.
Yes, I got no audio on Elliot, but as we get that sorted out, welcome to the back road, everyone. We head up north to Watkins Glen, New York, right there on Lake Seneca, Rod. I'm super excited for another road course to hopefully not whoop our ass this time. We've either brought home the bread on the road course or we haven't come home at all so far this season. How are you feeling, my friend, as we head up to New York?
I got to tell you, well, first of all, I love the area. I actually did not realize how close I was when I was in upstate New York to Watkins Glen. So it is a beautiful area. It's a great place for a road course race. Hopefully the weather is not an issue as it has been in the last few weeks. I mean, I know it wasn't an issue for the Cup race, but certainly Xfinity race had to deal with their fair share of weather. I'm tired of weather being an issue.
Yeah.
We just get a race that's straight up nice weather.
Well, and that's not the driest place up there, right on the lake. I've been up there as well. I've gotten an Airbnb up actually in that area, and I'll say very kind people rolled in, and there was just a fridge full of beer. So very kind people up in Watkins Glen. Hoping they'll be kind to us this weekend. We can make a little bit of money. Elliot, you got us live and loaded here, man.
I certainly hope so.
Yes, we got you, man.
All right. So we were chatting here before the show. Everything was working fine. I go play the intro clip, and then after that, there's no sound or anything. I couldn't hear you guys. You couldn't hear me. But, hey, thankful we got it worked out, and thankful you guys can fill some time. But, yeah, I've heard lots of good things about the Watkins Glen area. You know, really excited for NASCAR to be back up there again this week. Squiggly season continues.
Yes, sir. An OG road course as well. I'm excited to have that back. A little more technicality, I think we'll see this weekend out of some of these more veteran drivers. What do you guys say before we jump forward, though, and break down Watkins Glen? We are going to look in the rear view, and then later on the show, we'll give you our DFS tiers and our best bets. Let's kick it off.
So last week we were at the Indianapolis road course, and Michael McDowell, I mean, Seth, you couldn't have put it better when we were talking before the show. That 34 team just opened a can of whoop ass on the rest of the field. McDowell got it done in his most impressive performance of his end of Front Row Motorsports career to get in the playoffs and win that race.
I mean, and especially coming from Front Row, man, like these guys are playing at a disadvantage every single week. And for him to, say what you want about that race, he fought his way up fair and clean. And then he had to then eventually take it back as well, fair and clean. Chase Elliott was gaining on him, man. And Chase was coming in hot. And we know how good of a road course driver Chase Elliott is. So hats off to Michael McDowell for pulling it off. Hopefully some good tickets were cashed over the weekend as well, Rod.
Hey, he rewarded his team for their faith in him. So, I mean, he just signed that extension and he went out and won a race. So there's no better storybook than to go out and win a race after you've gotten yourself signed back to that team. And no better, like I said, reward for them as well. I mean, they said, we're bringing both of you guys back. We'll see what we can do. Well, he won a race. That's what he can do.
I think the downside of this race, though, with only having one caution, though, Elliot, was the fact that it kind of destroyed your betting card if you're hoping for any of these, regular guys, the Bushers, the Rosses of the world. And then if you're betting on the ringers, they just kind of got stuck in the back and they couldn't really do anything. So tough day out on the field, guys.
Yeah, the ringers for sure got knocked around more than we expected. And Seth, you mentioned about some good tickets being cashed. Certainly not too many of those here in the Backroad set. I bet pretty heavily on the ringers. I thought we were going to see Kostecki and Kobayashi make top 10 challenges. That did not happen. A lot of the matchups did not happen. The only pluses I had were Larson winning that one group that we thought was mispriced last week. And I also had Ford to win. But other than that, just a whole bunch of red X's, just like your card here, Seth.
Yeah, we are in a little bit of a down streak. This is our first time of the year. We had never gone back-to-back races in red. Well, we've gone 3 in a row in red now. Down 6 units after last week. Busher over Brody was the only bet we hit. So I'm going to do a lot of listening tonight. I know I'm usually the guy coming in with some energy, some strong takes. I'm going to do a little bit of listening tonight, hear your guys' analysis, see what the chat has to say as well. We got Hill asking how we feel about Reddick. We'll get to that just in a little bit here in our tire tiers. Hill, thanks for tuning in, man. And also saying McDowell was okay last year at the Glen. Yeah, I like a little bit of McDowell this weekend. We got Didi in the chat saying hello, boys. Didi, thank you so much for always showing up to our channel. It doesn't matter if it's us on Thursday nights or the NASCAR show on Wednesday nights in this channel. Didi's always locked and loaded. Rod, how was the betting for you and Cody over at the NASCAR Gambling Podcast?
It was not as good as our Xfinity picks, actually. Xfinity, we pretty much cleaned up. The only thing we missed on Xfinity was the actual outright. We were pretty heavy on AJ, and we didn't get that. So unfortunately, but everything else, I mean, listen, we were pretty heavy on guys like Busher, right? Who we needed a top 5 out of in certain cases. We thought Larson was going to do well. Truex was going to do well. Unfortunately, really the only things we hit were McDowell over Austin Cindric. So it was a tough go for us at all on that one. I thought AJ would do better, unfortunately, but it was just a matter of, and you guys talked about these road ringers, right? Getting banged around a lot more. I mean, I kind of expected them to not really show out as well as everybody was hoping for, but with, like you said, with one caution, strategy played such a huge part of that. And you're asking these rookie drivers, right, to get strategy right in a situation where they'd have zero clue. Some of them have never been through a live pit stop in a cup car like that. So I was asking a lot of them. They would have needed a few cautions to make that charge. So this was just one of those races that if you were on McDowell, good on you, because there weren't too many out there that were on McDowell. So, I mean, you got to take your lumps and we'll move on to a, like you said, more traditional road course, and we'll figure out if we know anything about NASCAR after this.
Yeah, and there still was a bright side with SVG getting another top 10, just barely scraping in at the back there. But I tell you what, these international ringers, they had some trouble, especially with a guy like Ricky Stenhouse Jr. going for him, taking a whole bunch of them out. So,
come on, Ricky. We've defended this guy all fucking year, and now here he comes and just F's us over.
He needed to bring out just a little bit of the Ricky Stenhouse. He had to get it all out of his system before the playoffs. And I do think, the 47 in the playoffs will be interesting. So will the 34 in the playoffs. This team is not like it was in 2021, where they had a couple decent runs, but winning the 500 was the only reason they came close. Remember, McDowell was going to point his way into the playoffs. I mean, he was close. So this 34 team, I think McDowell said it in his post-race interview, they may make a little more noise than people think in the playoffs. That'll be interesting to watch. In just a couple of weeks, we're already that close to playoff season.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I wish this is the time I wish some of these sports books would be like to make the playoffs or not and put out some prop bets like that, like a little bit of mini future action. That would be cool. But hey, it's all going to unfold, and I think it starts here at Watkins Glen, boys. So why don't we drop down some knowledge with our next segment, Horizon Forecast.
Hey, Michael, it was only 20% chance of rain. I think we got all 20.
Shout out, as always, to our guy Ray Dunlap on the VO. So we are heading to Watkins Glen this weekend. We've had so many new road courses over the last few years in the Cup Series, but this one, as we said, is one of those tried and true traditional ones that they've been coming to year in and year out.
Yes.
As a result, it may be a little more traditional in the sense of the bets as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is one that I think you have to look at some of these veterans here. But keep in mind at the same time, no driver has more than 2 wins here. Rowdy, Larson, Chase all have 2 flat. And 6 times in NASCAR has a driver done it back-to-back. If you're thinking about Larson, him and Chase have both done it back-to-back, though. Hendrick overall, Rod, they seem like the manufacturer, the team you want here. They have 10 victories. Joe Gibbs has 7. And keep in mind, no one from outside the top 20 has ever won this. So how does that factor into your decisions this weekend, Rod? And any other trends you're looking at?
Well, again, I think we're going to see another race that has very few cautions, if any. I mean, other than, and we were kind of lucky to get that one caution early in the race last week. So
Right.
do we
Just
see
Pagano
that?
being an absolute bonehead.
Well, exactly. And maybe that doesn't happen again. Maybe these guys have figured out how to play a lot nicer on road courses. And it's very hard to bring out a full course caution on this. So like you said, qualifying is going to be key in this, obviously, in setting up not only your DFS, but your betting cards. Obviously, we work early in the week to try to identify some value for you in setting betting cards before. But in this race in particular, you're going to lean heavy on the qualifying efforts of these guys, because that may very well be where it ends up shaking out, especially if a guy like Larson or Elliot, right? Elliot is kind of hyped this week. He's one of the favorites to win.
Yeah.
Obviously,
yeah.
we're going to talk about that, and for good reason, right? He was chasing down McDowell or late in the race last week. So, and really to your point though, Seth, when we talk about road courses and comp tracks about road courses, it's difficult because every road course, and especially traditional road courses, Watkins Glen is not like Sonoma. Sonoma is not like the Roval, right? It's just you can say that they're a good road course racer, but each road course has its own unique abilities. And we've seen Truex do well here. We've seen Larson do well here. So those are the guys that we're probably going to be leaning a little heavier on, and Elliot too, as we handicap and put DFS value down on this track.
Yeah, and I think something to keep in mind here too, and I will be leaning a little bit heavier on Sonoma data, I think, this week, just because I do think there is something to these veterans who have been around this before. Tyler Reddick was in a post-race interview last weekend, and he said coming to Watkins Glen every year, he always feels like he's behind the 8 ball just because he doesn't have as many miles on this track. So that's something I'm going to be looking at, Elliot, with this only being a 7-turn track, 90 laps, about 220 miles. Does that factor in at all? Are you going to be leaning on some of those veterans more here as we just about break down the tire tiers?
Yeah, I think leaning on veterans makes sense, but not necessarily because of more miles at the track, just because oftentimes it's the vets that have been here and done that before that run better at these places. I don't know that there's necessarily enough similarity between Sonoma and the Glen just because they've been coming here, because keep in mind they've changed little bits and pieces of the layout of Sonoma and the Glen as well over the years. So that's worth keeping in mind. Obviously, it's a lot different than a place like Coda that was really not built for NASCAR. But in any case, it is nice to be back at a traditional road course. I'll say that, because Indy road course is still new and they're probably going away from it next year. There was that tire test on the oval right after the race. And of course, Chicago Street Course had a whole bunch of variables or whatever. So having a little bit of tradition, certainly nothing wrong with that this week.
Great comment here from Hill in the chat. He's saying it hurts in a way that they don't throw yellow at the end of the stages. For betting and hitting some longer shot ones, and especially if you're betting pre-practice and qualifying like we are weekly, it really does hurt us. I think that's something we're kind of realizing a little bit, and does hurt the entertainment factor a little bit, I think, as well. Maybe something that they'll reconsider, but I mean, still cool. It's a different style of racing, maybe not the most exciting, but yeah, I am with you there, Hill. Elliot, what do you think? Should we break this down a little bit further and talk some drivers?
Yeah, let's roll with that. All right, so our entry list this week, the main 36 cars, we've got Andy Lally in the Rick Ware number 15, Cole Custer in the number 51 for Rick Ware, Josh Bilicki's in the 78 for Live Fast, Mike Rockenfeller in the number 42 for Legacy. I remember bringing him up as a possible top 10 bet last week to see if Legacy was as good as maybe Eric Jones had been running. That didn't work out so well, so maybe stay away from the 42. But in terms of everybody else, Rod, how are we feeling as we bring up the tiers for the week?
All right. Listen, he's the most expensive guy on the list, but for good reason. I think you got to throw the 9 on there. I know that he is going to be super chalky, and Cody and I talked about it too on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. This is a week where you may have to eat a ton of chalk, because if you do not have at least one lineup with Chase Elliott in there, you're going to be behind the 8 ball if he comes out, leads a ton of laps, ends up winning the race, right? He's $1,100 right now. His struggles this season have been absolutely well documented. There's no doubt as to what he's done this season, and that he needs this win. But when you talk about laps led on this track, of the active drivers, he is second to Kyle Busch. And I'm not even bringing Kyle Busch up yet. I'm picking Elliot over Busch only because you guys will talk about it in a second, I'm sure. But he's got 170 laps led. The next on that list is Brad Keselowski at 123. So obviously Chase Elliott is, and Kyle Busch actually has 247. So that should tell you something. But we're not even talking about Kyle Busch right now. And for Chase Elliott, 4 top 5s in 6 total starts on this as well. 4 top 10s. So all of his top 10s have been top 5s and 2 wins. He's a hell of a driver on this track. He needs it. Had a good solid run last week, which may be encouraging to him and the team. So I think he's worth 11,000. I think you have to have him in at least one of your lineups, because if he goes off and you don't have him, it's your loss.
Yeah, I mean, Chase is really the slam dunk favorite this week. Definitely unanimous number 1. It is going to be really chalky, but just after seeing how he ran at Indy Road Course and just how much this team needs a win to get into the playoffs, of course, nobody wants to leave it to the chaos of Daytona. So the 9 car being the favorite makes a whole lot of sense. You know what, Seth? With the way that our boxes are laid out here, I'm going to give you the second pick this week. Let's play it a little differently.
I appreciate that, Elliot. And I'm going to go contrarian here. I think you can actually have a little bit of leverage with Martin Truex Jr. this week at the 10-5 slot. And I get it, man. Like, Truex has kind of been hit or miss on some of these road courses this season. However, you go back to the traditional road course of Sonoma, he was dominant. You also want to look at Watkins Glen history for Truex. What's he done? 7 of his 16 races, he's placed in that top 5 finishing position. I think he's a little bit less chalky than these other guys at the top of the board. I like Kyle Larson. We know what he can do here. Martin Truex Jr., though, also holds the overall qualifying record at this track all time. So I think he could qualify in that top row, and we could see him do very, very well. So give me some number 19 there in this 2 slot.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really argue with Truex here. I think he's probably the top Toyota to watch. But I got to go back with Chevrolet here, and I will put Larson on the board. You know, obviously the books really like Chevrolet. They're minus to win this week. We'll talk about that when we get to the prop bets. Yeah. But just with what Larson has done at Watkins Glen, you know, swept the weekend last year. Obviously, he's always hungry to win. And I think that we've seen with Larson before, if it's the 9 and the 5 at the front, we've seen Larson kind of get into it with teammates a little more than we have for most of the other Hendrick guys. I don't know that the 5 would move the 9 for a win, but he certainly isn't going to lay back and let
didn't he do it last year? Didn't he hit him last year? And that's how Chase ended up with the 4th finish. Am I right on that, Rod?
That is exactly it. It was Larson and Elliot at the end taking each other out.
See, I knew that thought came to my mind for a reason, even if I didn't have the exact moment picked out in the front of my head. Again, I think that would play out differently knowing that Chase needs a win. I think Hendrick would grab that Hendrick car's fire suit by the neck if he knocked the 9 out of the playoffs. But I guess you never know. The point is here, Kyle Larson's always hungry for a win. He's damn good at the Glen, and you can't ignore him this week, even though the other blue and white Hendrick car is the main favorite.
Yeah, he's risky as hell every single week, though. Like, there's a reason Martin Truex Jr. is averaging almost 50 DK points a week, and Kyle Larson's at 39. So that's why I'm going to tend to be a little safer this week. Rod, who else do you think belongs in this top tier?
Believe it or not, and no part of data is pointing you in this direction, but I'm feeling a little bit of Brad Keselowski. Throw that 6 car up in the A. He's $7,100. It's very rare that we put a $7,100 guy in the A chart, but I think this is where you're going to get a performance out of a guy who is priced in the C tier, right? I mean, it's literally something that you don't expect, which is why in a GPP, if you toss the Keselowski out there and sort of build your lineup around, first of all, you're going to have a ton of money left over. Yeah. But Keselowski on this track, 12 races, 6 top 10s, 4 top 5s, 123 laps led. He is the 3rd leading lap leader around this track. People tend to forget about him in this area. So for you to be able to grab a guy at $7,100 like that for the price that you're getting him at. Now, listen, again, last season was tough for him. Very, very bad for RFK as a total. But in 2021, he started on the pole, finished 35th because he had some trouble. But before that, 9th place in 2019, and after a 10th place start, 12th, 3rd place finish after 12th place start in 2016. Good DFS day there. He's sneaky good on these tracks, and I think putting Keselowski up here is warranted.
I don't hate that. That's definitely not as crazy as it sounds, because I was kind of leaning toward the 6 a little bit. Tier A is a little bit nuts, Rod. I'll give you that. but I do think Keselowski will perform pretty well this week. And remember, of course, he's ran well here. Even that famous 2012 finish where Ambrose ended up winning, we saw that 2-car run up front. Of course, I'm sure you guys have already seen that clip on social media. Always good to go back and watch that highlight.
Marcus, baby. Yeah, I miss him for sure. For sure. All right. I'm going to get a little weird here in the top tier too.
As if
Give
we
me a
haven't already
guy.
gotten a little weird.
Yeah, we're going to
going.
double down on Ford. And I think the books, DraftKings, everyone playing this week is missing out on someone who is an absolute dog when we get up here in the New York area. Give me some Joey Logano all the way down at 7,800. I'm going to talk about a lot about Logano. I think this is a misprice across the board. He's been sneaky good here. 3 Xfinity wins, 1 Cup win, 31% top 5 rate here in the Cup Series as well. And you want to talk about a guy who has been dominant even recently at Watkins Glen. It's Joey Logano last season, number 3 in the total speed rankings from iFantasy Race, number 3 in green flag speed, 4th fastest late in run, finished 3rd. And I know he's been pretty chalky and pretty bad like this entire year at road courses. However, he was good at one road course this year. Do you guys remember what road course that was?
I'm going to take a guess and say Sonoma if you're really comparing to that data.
It was
Yeah,
Sonoma.
I was there. So I remember that one.
eighth in total speed rankings, finished 3rd. Ford has found something, boys, and I think it's Joey Logano's turn to take it up a notch. I'll talk about him later, but he's a misprice across the board. So give me some Logano, throw him up there. Elliot, back to you. You can go triple down on your Ford manufacturer that you've been loving the last couple months.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it. They've really paid off. Logano, I don't know if it's quite a misprice, certainly with how he's been at the Glen and that sort of deal, but just the road courses haven't gone super duper well for him this year, like you were saying. I appreciate the faith, though, and I will triple down on the Ford. And the 34, Michael McDowell, has really earned all of our respect at the road courses. You know, obviously he's run better throughout the season, but this guy, especially after what we saw at Indy road course, do I think that they're going to have that sort of speed to go out and dominate every road course race? I don't. But I do think that he has well earned tier A status at nearly every road course that we go to. 2nd best in total speed ranking in the Cup Series this year on road courses. This 34, you know, if you followed Michael McDowell's story, he's come from just the very bottom of NASCAR Cup racing and has now made it up to the point where he's been in the playoffs twice, just absolutely dominating this race, bringing this front row team to not quite the forefront, but definitely a lot better than I'm sure even they expected to be. So the 34 car, I mean, how can they not earn your respect after last week?
Dude's been like, he was running start and parks for a long time in the Cup Series. I felt like
some of our newer fans may not even realize what start and park means. So
yeah,
that's how long it's been around.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you don't see it as much anymore, honestly. But
no, you can't do it at all with the charter system. It doesn't make sense.
And would you ever think there was a world, boys, where even at the road courses a couple months ago, like DraftKings did not price Michael McDowell properly until now. He's 9,600. But he deserves all 9,600 of that budget. So Elliot, if I didn't go Logano there, I was going McDowell. I love this play. He is a tier A driver. Congrats, Michael McDowell. They came to the top of the tiers for the first time on the back road this season. Rod, who else belongs in this tier or should be in the B tier?
So I'm thinking that we should drop down to the B tier, and I saw Alfred here. I was already leaning this direction, Alfred.
Yeah.
Go ahead and throw that 45 in there. Still no Reddick. Interesting. Also, by the way, shout out. Hi, my brother. I just wanted to say, I know you're out there. I see you. Yeah.
What's up, Nick? Good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, listen, here's the thing. So for Tyler Reddick, he did finish 7th here last season, but he did have a 5th place finish. We all know that Tyler Reddick has come on to be a road course, I don't want to say ringer because there isn't that thing anymore. Obviously, he won in Austin, so a good day for him there. Had a rough go of it in Sonoma, turned around in Chicago, had a rough day in Chicago. The only thing that was really, and granted, he did fight his way to a 4th place finish in Indy. But again, the only thing that kind of gives me pause with Reddick is you can get the guy that wins Austin, or you can get the guy that finishes 35th at Gateway, 33rd at Sonoma, 30th at Nashville, 28th at Chicago, 27th in Atlanta, right? That was a big stretch of just bad finishes for him. So you either, and he was down. He was down so much after even qualifying. So where are we getting Reddick? Like, it's tough. He could jump up and have a fantastic day, or he could stink up your lineup. So that's my only pause with Reddick, but you have to put him in the Bs because he's earned it.
Yeah, I mean, number one in total speed ranking at the road courses in 2023, courtesy of iFantasy Racing. However, Rod makes a great point here, Elliot. Like, Reddick is only averaging about 29, 30 DraftKings points per game compared to these other guys who are averaging 50, 40. And then you also have to factor in that, like, every week when we come to a road course, last week we thought he was going to do something, and it wasn't the day we wanted. It's the price you pay with Tyler Reddick right now. It's too risky for my blood.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, I think he's a solid B plus, but I'm perfectly fine with him in the Bs. Just too risky.
I'll fade him. I don't give a hell. I don't give a hell. All right. I'm going to go ahead and let's throw Daniel Suarez up there, 9,500. This is another guy who hasn't been the best for DraftKings lineups so far this season. However, Daniel Suarez knows how to rip it around these road courses. Still number 9 in the total speed rankings at road courses year to date. And then also looking at Watkins Glen last season, 5th in the total speed rankings, finished 5th that day as well. You might get an occasional bad day from Suarez, like a broken shifter or, blowing the transmission up. But besides that, like a couple fluke things, he is really consistent at road courses, especially these traditional ones. So I'll go with Daniel Suarez here, Elliot.
I don't hate that play at all. Suarez is getting a lot of noise from the books this week, and I think it's well warranted. I'll go with another guy who still stayed hot. He didn't end up top 10 last week, but he was 11th, so close enough for me. Chris Buescher.
Wasn't close enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, he has just stayed hot. I think that he has got to be one of the sneaky favorites as we head into the playoffs. And we talked about traditional road courses, right, that we wanted to look at Sonoma data. He was 2nd in speed ranking at Sonoma and 6th in the entire series in terms of speed ranking on road courses this year. Shout out, as always, to iFantasy Race. Always love looking at that for the tiers. Really helps to put it together for sure. Great stuff over there. But in any case, I mean, obviously last week the story was McDowell. The story was the ringers. Chris Buescher was almost shoved behind the 8 ball a little bit, even though he won 2 races in a row, which doesn't happen often, let alone a team of that supposed caliber that's now running up front. With this 17 car, I don't see why they can't pull off at least another top 11, if not more.
Yeah, and again, for Chris Buescher, he's always a solid top 10 lock for me nowadays. Every single week, he's got top 10 speed now. Him and Keselowski both. And I mean, if you really want to get cute with it, when you see those 2 RFK cars, they're normally running alongside of each other. So if we think Keselowski's going to have a good day, obviously we think Buescher is going to have a good day as well. Talk about having Joe Gibbs do well at this. Put the 11 car up there. Denny Hamlin. Is it time to trust him? That's my only question. He's at $9,000, which is actually a very reasonable price for a guy like Denny Hamlin, because we know that he qualifies well on road courses, right?
Yeah.
He qualified well in Sonoma, qualified well in Chicago. That have the finishes necessarily been there? Not necessarily. But for Denny Hamlin, better days have to be ahead, right? He's got to find some way to get around this again and to get back up into the front of these road course races. Last week, not a terrible DFS day for him as far as where he started versus where he finished in Indy. He had 33 points for you, not what you're hoping for, but he had 56 the week before, 60 the week before that. He is averaging 39.4 fantasy points per race. So at some point, this 11 team's got to figure something out. I think this might be the week to do it.
They have the speed every single week. They just can't put it in victory lane lately, at least since Pocono, that is. And, we know how that ended. All right. Throw AJ Allmendinger up there. And listen, this is a message to AJ Allmendinger. You were brought in here to win a fucking road course. You need to win a fucking road course. Like, this is your time to step the hell up, man. Number 1 in late run speed last season. That's something to keep in mind here. He tends to get banged around. He tends to go out of bounds like he did last week. It's time for AJ Allmendinger to step up here. It's going to be chalky. It always is at road courses, but at 9,300, you can do worse than AJ Allmendinger. But we really need to see him step up if he wants to keep this car, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we got to expect better from him. Does he have to win every road course race? No, but does he have to do better than that? Yeah, for sure. I'm sure he felt bad. It was almost embarrassing to see him go out there and run so badly. But yeah, I agree with you. Got to go out there and win. So last week, if you watched, of course, we had another road course. Not only did we lead guys astray by having the ringers ranked pretty high, everybody who bet Kamui Kobayashi because of us, I apologize.
Yeah, apologize.
But I also apologize for leading viewers astray with my 48 car, Alex Bowman. I expected, the team's been running well. but that he would find some sort of chaos that would have him finish 35th. It didn't happen, and he ran 5th, ran well all day. So that would have been a pretty good DFS day, starting a little further back than that. And the road, like I said last week, the road course data is there. Third fastest in the entire series this year on road courses. The team, just like the 9 car, back against the wall, needing a win. Do I think the 48 is going to win? No, I don't. Do I think that they are going to have another top 10 run to try to keep the momentum going? I do. And of course, with Bowman, sometimes it's the personal things that can help you find that extra edge. Not only is he running the Xfinity race, but just had one of his beloved dogs, Roscoe, pass away this week. So much love to the 48 family. I made a donation to the Best Friends charity last night in honor of that. So again, sometimes it's just that little extra edge, certainly send your thoughts out to Bowman. Maybe it'll give him that little bit extra speed in the race car. You never know.
And I will say this on Bowman. I went into a matchup trying to fade him, and I started looking at his road course stats this season. I said, no. He is number 3 in the total speed rankings. He's actually performed very well coming off that top 5 as well. So, yeah, I think Alex Bowman might be a little bit of a value here. I'm not sure what he is outright, Rod, but I think at least in DFS, he's not someone we're thinking of right now because he has been in a slump, but I think he might have broke out last week.
Yeah, I don't know about an outright, but I definitely think that him in the Xfinity race and we know that it's not the same. We know that doesn't translate the same. I get it. But having that track time ahead of time for a guy like Bowman who needs it right now, I think that's going to be beneficial for him as well. So I'll take that. As far as outright's concerned, I think he's somewhere in the 20-1 area,
okay.
30-1 area. It's not something I want to touch, but mango margarita. I am
okay.
Ooh, all right.
Shout out Rod's dad, Rod's brother. We appreciate the Villa Gomez family on this program. Rod, who else do you have? Are we jumping down a tier? Is there anyone else that belongs in B?
Let's throw one more up in the B. We'll put this as like B minus C plus territory. Throw the 20 up there. Christopher Bell. Yeah. I feel like people are kind of sleeping on him a little bit because he hasn't necessarily been at the top of the mind for many of us this year, but in 2 starts here, right? He has a 7th place finish in 2021, which is fun. I mean, that's good. That's a good DFS day. But last year, he started 38th, drove his way to 8th place. That is a massive DFS day as far as points are concerned, as far as differential. And really, it's funny. You think about it, he's only got 2 starts on this track altogether at all, which is not bad considering of his status. So, it's Sonoma, started 4th, finished 9th. I mean, it's okay. DFS day wasn't the best, which is why I'm saying B minus C plus, right? He did have a top 10 finish at Indy, so he's doing well on road courses this season. And we all know Gibbs obviously has fast cars. We expect them to do well. So I think B plus C minus is right the range for Christopher Bell this week.
Okay. Let's drop down to the C's here. I'm going to throw another Gibbs car. Let's go with Ty Gibbs, the grandchild himself, the chosen one. And you actually look at Ty Gibbs, and he's been better on road courses than I thought he was. Look at the total speed rankings year to date. Ty Gibbs is 8th at them. So very interesting there. Let's keep in mind this also a guy who has won in the Xfinity series up here in New York, right on Lake Seneca, baby. So I like Ty Gibbs. I think he's a very contrarian play, high leverage. I don't think a lot of people are going to think at 8,600 they want to play him. I bet Austin Cindric right in that range, 8,400 gets more play. I bet Ross gets more play, 8,200. I'll pay a little bit more up and I'll get Ty Gibbs, who's been surely improving this season.
Yeah, I certainly don't hate that pick. He's been running better. And like I said last week, I've got a thing for the 54, not just the Fords too. So certainly can't complain there. I thought about going a little crazy with this pick, but with a guy like William Byron still on the board, I think he definitely gets some seat consideration.
Great play.
It's another week, so much attention is going to be on the 9, so much on the 5, so much on the Gibbs car, so much on the playoff battle. This seems like a week where the 24 car is not going to look to make any noise, not going to look to do anything too crazy, but we'll still go out there and have a pretty good run. So for that, 9th in the series in speed ranking, 2nd best at COTA. Certainly a car that'll do at least a C-tier performance for sure.
This is the first time I've seen William Byron at 20-1, like maybe since Daytona. It's honestly insane. And even to see, like you said, Elliot, he's not going to be heavily owned down at 8,800 as far as DFS is concerned. So if you're betting on speed, maybe you can find it again. It's been a little tough to find it, Rod, but he did have it early in the season.
He did.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry. You can go first. I'll catch you after.
Oh, no, I was just saying I'll catch up. He did, and it's sad to see him drop off as much as he did because at the beginning of the season, we were talking about, can anybody stop William Byron? Well, the answer was William Byron can stop William Byron.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing is, Hendrick with a 4-car team, we've seen at times some Hendrick cars run really good. Some Hendrick cars don't run so well. Byron's got multiple wins, top seed in the point standings, and you got 2 of your 4 guys that aren't in the playoffs. Some more resources probably going toward those cars in the 24. All right, we're locked in. We're going to try some things. We're going to settle.
Great point. Great point.
With the playoff points. So I think obviously William Byron, he's been prone to summer slumps, but I wouldn't call this a big-time slump, at least not by the standards we're used to with some of these younger Hendrick drivers. So, I mean, I think that's the way to go with 24. I think we will see him heat up again in a couple of weeks when the playoffs get going.
I agree. At some point that team's got to catch fire. Is it sad that we're in the middle of the season? I'm already having a hard time trying to come up with anything for anybody. I mean, okay, look, throw Kyle Busch up there.
Yes, that was the one.
Throw Kyle Busch up there. He is a solid C because of the upside of this guy. And the problem is that even by his own admission, right? I mean, he got done after Indy and said, I don't even know anymore. There is nothing more discouraging than watching a guy at the top of his game and a dude that was so on a tear early in the season almost kind of give up in front of your eyes. Like, what is up with Kyle Busch's season? Now,
remember they had that problem in the race where he was running in the top 5. Something went wrong in the engine and he just dropped to the back of the field. So I think that was probably more of his discouragement, but I do see your point there.
Yeah. I mean, but that's been like the sort of epitome of his season, right? He's running in the top 5, something happens and he's not anymore. So the sheer upside of Kyle Busch alone, I talked about the fact that he is the leading lap leader on this track. Dude's got like 16,000 wins on this track. All right. He doesn't have 16,000.
Yeah.
We know what you mean. Yeah.
But still, like 13 top 10 finishes and 17 starts, 7 top 5s, 2 wins. It's Kyle Busch. Any lower than C, I think, is an insult still.
Can't complain. Yeah, that's exactly who I wanted to go with there. Is anyone up for dropping down to the D's already? Like I kind of feel like we're at another tier break. Elliot, is there anyone else you want to throw in the C's? Because I'm maybe Ryan Blaney, but outside of that, like
that's what I was going to have in mind. Just one of those, veteran guy, good enough equipment. Don't think he'll embarrass himself enough to be in the D's. Any objection?
No. I think when you look at Ryan Blaney, like you're not looking for a top 10 out of him. Average finish here is 13.7, 2 top 10s in his 6 starts. Like that's kind of what you're getting with Ryan Blaney here. You're hoping for a top 10. You're probably going to be stuck with a top 15, but yeah, I think he belongs in the C's. Let's drop to the D's then. We can throw a Bubba Wallace, I guess, in there. He's in a Toyota. So that's great. He had speed. He had speed at Coda. That's great.
He didn't embarrass himself at the Indy Road Course. I mean,
yeah, finished 18th. Like that's kind of what you're looking for from this guy. Like, don't get ahead of yourself. Keep your skis on your feet. Don't mess up, kid. That's kind of what you're like. It's not a comfortable feeling, but I feel like at the price tag, like for instance, I'd rather pay $6,900 for him than $8,400 for Cindric. Like Cindric probably belongs in this tier, and one of you guys can make the case for him. He is running better as of late, 15th last week. So it's good to see a little bit of speed out of that 2 car, but I just can't get behind it at $8,400 to pay for a guy who's averaging less points than Harrison Burton still,
Hey, I mean, you open the door, I'll walk right through it. This 2 car was who I had in mind. Like I said, didn't embarrass himself, 15th and ran all right. It's been a couple of weeks since we've said, Austin Cindric, you're a dumbass out on the racetrack. Maybe he's finding something. Maybe we'll see. Maybe we'll see him be one of those guys that's a non-playoff guy that is able to sneak out some really good runs in the playoffs. So I got some faith in him. It's starting to slowly creep back. I know on this show we've been really low on the 2 car for a while, but he's creeping back into the D's is a plus for Cindric compared to where he's been most of the year.
No doubt about it.
Is this the right time to throw out Ross Chastain? Are we in
Probably
Ross Chastain's territory?
I think it's the lowest we've had. Yeah, I think it's the lowest we've had him all season, though, Rod.
Honestly, and listen, it's funny to me because I'm over here, commenting on drivers who can drive circles around me. I'll never be able to do what they can do. But I'm waiting for the day when somebody does this to me and puts me in a D tier. That's fine. I'll take that and I'll own it. But at the same token, it's like, listen, I don't know what happened. Like we were all high on Chastain for so long, for so many things. comes out and he does good things like he did at Austin where he finished 4th, right? Even Sonoma with a top 10 finish, that's not necessarily that bad, but I don't know. It's hard to trust him. And D is about where I'd put him. 17th at Indy last week, 7th at Michigan before. Like, it's just, I know it's 2 different track disciplines, excuse me, but still, like, that's the range of outcomes you can get with Ross Chastain this season, unfortunately.
Well, and I think it's the price tag here too, right, guys? 8,200, that's more than Bowman. I'm taking Bowman every time. It's more than Logano. I'm taking Logano every time. It's more than Keselowski. I'm taking Keselowski. Like, there's just so many more consistent drivers. I love Ross. You guys know my love for Ross, but I just can't stomach it anymore. Yeah, like, until further notice, he's off the betting cards and he's out of the DFS lineups here.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing about Ross is that we know with him, perhaps more than any other driver in the field, for him to be successful in upfront winning, not only does he have to have a great car, but he's got to be balls to the wall. I'm doing anything I can to win this race behind the driver's seat. And almost in a similar situation to Byron, he's got the win. He's locked in the playoffs. He doesn't want to be the center of attention. Obviously, road courses are not his best discipline, but I think primarily for the one car, he doesn't want to embarrass himself. He doesn't want to be the center of attention. He doesn't want to take somebody out and give somebody some more fodder to dump him in the playoffs when he really needs a win. The one car is another guy that I'll be watching in 2 weeks, but I agree for now, stay away.
Yep. Elliot, go ahead and throw the number 14 car up there. I think we forgot that Chase Briscoe actually can rip around a road course. Indy is always one of his good ones too, dating back to the Xfinity Series. I wish I would have thought a little bit more about that and remembered that last week. He finished 6th there. It was a really good run for the number 14 car. You kind of look at the overall performance from him on the road course this season, going by the speed rankings, 20th at Coda, 23rd at Sonoma. 16th though at Chicago. So and then 11th last week. Like he's running decent, running better than what you would expect. And for a price tag of 7,300, I don't mind it. Again, I would prefer Brad, Bubba kind of in this range, but I think he's kind of right in there with that tier as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to sound the alarms. This is perhaps the first time all year that the 4 has not been the highest rated Stewart-Haas car. Sound the alarms.
Also the first time I think Kevin Harvick it will be in the D or lower tier, rightfully so though.
And the first time that I haven't brought him up.
Right. Normally he's one of the first 5 drivers we bring up here. I mean,
because normally he's a DFS darling, but unfortunately on a road course, you can't say that.
Yeah, it's just not there. I think he's respectable enough to throw up in the D's here just because of that veteran pedigree. Again, I think he's a guy, he's going to want to be unproblematic. They're almost certainly safe on points, and I don't think he'll be in much trouble to miss out on Daytona unless something crazy happens with that 4 team. So, again, D, there's not much more to say. Rod, you usually have a case on Harvick. I'll let you finish this off if you want, but I think D tier is acceptable for this 4. I don't expect him to do a whole lot.
Well, I will tell you one thing. It's Kevin Harvick. Very rarely does he lose you points. So, and if you're, I mean, at $7,600, you're hoping for a little more than not losing you points, but only twice this season has he actually lost you points. So for the most part, he's at least getting you 3 times your value, if not more. So, you're looking for a good, 25 to 30 point day out of him. And if that's what you need, if that's what your DFS lineup calls for, then the 4 is your car.
That's not what I'm looking for, Rod, but if it is, I'll make sure I call the number 4 car.
It's in the D's.
We got Alfred, though. He's saying he's hoping for a decent race out of Cindric, sitting on 120 over Briscoe. Oh, man.
Taking the juice on Cindric even over Briscoe.
We might call you Agent Cody Banks after that one because that is risky, my friend. That's
going to be some real sour juice you're going to be drinking on Sunday, I think. But, hey, it's possible.
We appreciate you either way, Alfred. We love you, buddy. All right. Can we drop to Fs? Elliot, anyone else you want here? Okay.
I think we got a good few that can go in the Fs, but I think it's time.
Okay. Throw the guy in that I'm going to continue. Like, I've just been impressed the last couple of weeks. Like, it hasn't been crazy. It hasn't been like, scream, tell your mama type shit. But, like, it's been very solid for Harrison Burton in this number 21 car. Finished 20th. 21st last week. He's sitting all the way down at 5,100. If I'm taking a shot on anyone in that tier, it's not Andy Lally. I'm not going back to the Corey LaJoie train. I'm going to stay with Harrison Burton, man. He's been very consistent for us. He's not losing points. He sucks at qualifying. He has no speed, but he continues to do better than his equipment is allowing him to. So, yeah, give me some Harrison Burton here. I think we'll get you some differential points.
Yeah, I really don't hate that. He's our guy now the last few weeks. At the beginning
Yeah.
of the year, Joy was our rock bottom play. Now I think it's a 21 of Harrison Burton. Same thing with Cindric. Maybe some of these guys who've been in this series coming up on almost 2 years now, maybe they're really starting to find their footing. It's one of the more difficult times to come in. Obviously, everybody's learning this new car, but it's certainly the most different that it's been from the Xfinity car to the Cup car. There used to be quite a lot of similarities there, even to the point where they were running the same damn car for a while. So I think the 21 could be another guy to watch. I'll go with an old wily vet here. We could call him Austin Dillon in the Fs. Again, he's a guy that if chaos doesn't strike, he won't embarrass you. That's what I like about the 3. He could go out there, put out a nice little 15th to 20th place run if he runs well, and there maybe is a good chaos stays out of, maybe a top 10 shot. In the speed ranking series, 14th in the series. That's not terribly embarrassing. I think he's certainly worth an F. Give him maybe a little sniff, bit of the fridge. Maybe this is all right. We'll take a bite of this,
All right. Yeah, honestly, like he was 16th last week or something. Like he finished pretty decent.
He didn't embarrass himself. That's what's important down here. You need guys that aren't going to qualify super high and lose you points on the differential. You need guys who aren't going to embarrass themselves unless they run into some trouble. And I think the 3 car is one of the top guys, in that sort of mid-tier. I don't really care, but he won't embarrass himself.
Not like that fucking helmet throw. That was embarrassing. Jesus.
That was, but I don't think a triangle counts as a road course, thankfully, for the 3.
Yes. Rod, what else do you have for the Fs, if anything?
I've got one more, and that's the 42. We could put Mike Rockefeller up there. He actually had 31 points last week. Like that's not bad for a first start, right, on a road course.
He was in not the 91. He was in the Spire 77 at the Glen last year.
Which, but even still, like this last time out on the track, last week, he still got you 31 points, which is a pretty damn good start. And for him, like all you got to do, if he qualifies 37th like he did, or 37th, or what did he qualify?
Somewhere toward the back, yeah.
Yeah, he qualified. Yeah, well, he started. It says here start 37th. There's 36 cars. But anyways, he started last.
There were extras race last year. So
that's right. Yeah. But started 37th, finished 24th. Not bad, right? That's the 31 points for you out of a guy that's 55. That's 6 times what you paid for him. That's a really damn good day. If you can get something like that out of a driver who's $5,500, that's going to be a good GPP play for you.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like I was expecting more out of him last week, but I do think the Legacy 42 is just in a bad spot at this point in time. They're heading over to Toyota. Having an experienced road course guy, again, not as embarrassing as I thought. I didn't realize he was as high up as 24th on the leaderboard, so I can respect this.
I think we are also forgetting, maybe discounting him just a little bit, Justin Haley.
He was my next guy I was thinking too.
Yeah, like this is a guy who's been pretty solid here on road courses. Let's not forget, again, it was a little fluky, but Chicago, he was up there competing for this thing. And when you actually look at last year as well, Justin Haley was weirdly number 9 in green flag speed, despite finishing 18th. And like, if you're playing Justin Haley and he finishes 18th, he's not losing you the week. I don't know if it's going to be the optimal play, but it's not going to lose you your week. And I think Justin Haley all the way down at all the way back down at 6,100. You can do worse. Like I'd rather play him, I think, than a lot of people in that tier. Elliot, I have one more play I might be interested in. Anything else you have? But before we just rattle them off,
go ahead and throw up your guy.
Go ahead, Cole Custer, man. Cole Custer, he's back wheeling. What are we, 51 this week? Hasn't been the best DK play so far this season, but when you actually look at what he did at Watkins Glen last season, kind of surprising, boys. Kind of surprising. Cole Custer ranking in the top 8 in speed ranking, 6 in green flag speed, finished 11th. So while I know he won't have that type of speed, I think he's better at Glen than we're giving credit for. So as a contrarian play that I don't think anyone else is going to be on this week, especially if you're on fan tracks just looking for a $5 minimum, I'll throw out Cole Custer.
Could do a lot worse. The only other 2 I was thinking about for the F would be the 43 of Jones and the 47 of Stenhouse. Any objections?
No.
I think that they're sort of the best of the rest in this, yucky pile of shit that we've got on the bottom here. Stenhouse and Jones, never the greatest road course guys. They've run consistently enough. Obviously not a great finish for Jones last week, ended up toward the back of the field. But again, these are guys who I think maybe it's worth that dart throw if you miss on the first dart throw for whatever reason, or if you want to just go outside the box and see if chaos happens. I think they could be worth it.
Yeah, I think the issue with this, with the guys we don't have ranked is I'm afraid to play them. I'm afraid they're going backwards. I'm afraid it's a 0 or a negative or something close. So yeah, I think we're pretty spot on here, boys, with where we cut it off. Ellie, you got a one-liner or two for the rest of these gyms?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough on road courses. Obviously unfortunate that the 41 of Priest and the 10 of Almirola, there's just nothing here on road courses. If Kevin Harvick is going to be a tier D and Briscoe is barely going to make the tier D, what hope do these guys have? They're going to hope for some chaos at Daytona to go out there. Same with Corey LaJoie. I mean, I'm excited to see where you guys have him next week because we know he's going to go balls to the wall trying to win because it's not going to happen here. If he's 30th, I'll be surprised. Andy Lally in the 15, one of those road course ringers. Again, I just don't see a lot of upside here. Todd Gilliland, props to him. Sometimes he runs well. Probably not going to happen this week.
Why is Todd Gilliland priced so high finally this week? He's 6,700. That's more than Haley. That's more than Eric Jones, Austin Dillon, Stenhouse. That makes no sense. Like Todd Gilliland's normally like maybe they meant to put 5,700. I think. I honestly think like someone made a typo there because he's normally like bottom of the tier. So yeah,
right.
screw that.
We've seen misprices. I mean, we had the misprice in the group last week with SVG and Larson with lower odds than like Bell and somebody. So unfortunately, it does happen. That wouldn't surprise me. The data's not there for Gilliland. 28th in the series in road course total speed. So there's just nothing there. And same with the 77 of Ty Dillon, 78 of Josh Bilicki. No worth there at all.
Yeah, Ty Dillon, I hate to say it, but he's such a forgettable face right now. After the race at Pocono,
Elliot
and I went up to him after the Xfinity race, and we were going to ask him a couple questions, get a little interview with him, and turns out it wasn't Ty Dillon. It was just one of his crew members that looks just like him. He got out of the race car and he ran, and then we chatted with the guy. It's like, yeah, I actually get that a lot, that I look like Ty. And who else did he say he looks like? Chase or something like that, maybe.
Yeah, but I mean. That guy was Ty Dillon. I mean,
it might have just been Ty Dillon, and he didn't want to answer questions. Like
no, it was a doppelganger of Ty Dillon for sure. Ironic that he was standing in the fire suit that looked just like the car right next to the car. But hey,
he must have sprinted. He must have sprinted. He's saying, "I'm not talking to fucking anyone. I'm done with this shit."
Right. Yeah. And I mean, I hope he enjoys his last 11 or 12 races in the Cup Series. I really hope he has a good time out there.
We didn't need to bury Ty Dillon. We didn't need to bury Ty Dillon. God.
I mean, you said it last week with Cindric. We were putting him in the ground for the year. We've put him on the tier since then. With this, I mean, if you guys even have him on the board at Daytona, I'll yell at you. I hope he has fun. I hope he has fun in his last.
Don't tell Full Tank with Phil that. Full Tank with Phil's still running around with a little Ty Dillon chub right now.
Full Tank with Phil. You're real smart on most things. Not with the 77 car. All right, we're done with shitting on Ty Dillon. Let's go ahead and get a little more specific in the markets with the parking garage props.
Did you mention Josh Bilicki?
I did say Josh Bilicki.
Okay.
He said his name.
Next week, the 78 with BJ in there, maybe worth a step.
On the thumbnail, baby. On the thumbnail, previewing it. Let's
go. Be ready, everybody.
All right,
prop time. Let's roll. Well, guys, I mean, the books were pretty much what I expected this week. What were your thoughts?
Chalky. Yeah, I mean, chalky, but I did feel like there were some values left out there a little bit. I'm kind of limiting my exposure this week, pre-practice and qualifying, just because, like, when we look back at the trends, we talked about it. The winners come from the front row so much, like 26% of the time just from the pole, 67% of the time for the top five. So don't get too crazy, I think, pre-practice and qualifying, but I think there's still some intriguing numbers out in your Rod.
Yeah, and again, we broke it on down. When Chase Elliott is at plus 275, you know that this is definitely a chalky week. And what's crazy is that Kyle Larson right behind him at plus 475. There's even a little bit of a disparity there, but yeah, this is a chalky week. But there is some, the top 5, top 3 markets you can exploit some things in this as well.
All right, so we'll get rolling in the outrights here. 2 that I have my eye on. Martin Truex Jr. plus 700 over on Caesars, I think, is a number definitely worth looking at. And I know I talked about William Byron being kind of a non-factor, but in case they trip and fall over and get some speed, he's a plus 2,000 this week. That's pretty solid.
Yeah, I have been trying to find ways to bet Truex. I was hoping that we would come in because like the shine has started to fade just a little bit, just a little bit. The last
Again, another one of those guys that maybe he's got the playoff spot locked in, just don't make a scene, these last few weeks.
Right, and that's might be what we have here. But he's just been very up and down on road courses. But I am interested. I'm hoping maybe he qualifies fifth, sixth, somewhere still in there. I can maybe still get a decent number on him because I do want to play at some MTJ this week. Didn't really find him any good matchups though, other than like head to head against Chase. So yeah, I don't mind MTJ there. And like I said, first time we've seen William Byron at 20-1 in forever. So don't mind those two outrights. Rod, is there anything you're on right now, pre-practice and qualifying?
Yeah, so here's the thing, and we'll lean right into what Alfred was saying earlier. I kind of am intrigued by Reddick, and not Reddick at 7.5 to 1 on Caesars, but Reddick at 10 to 1 over on Superbook. I think that number is actually pretty good and pretty tempting to take when you consider, he has been as good. We talked about him earlier in the tire tiers, right? Winning already on a road course this season. So, I mean, he can do it. I don't know if he can do it, but he can do it. Like, it's a matter of can he or can he? And I know that sounds really, really confusing, but at the same time,
I'm on your wavelength, Ron. I feel you.
Right? It's just, that the potential is there. And I think 10 to 1 is a much more tempting number than even plus 300 for Chase Elliott, who could win this race, probably should win this race. But if you're only laying plus 300, it doesn't seem as tempting as taking 10 to 1 for a guy like Reddick, who you don't expect to go out and win, but can win at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, with Chase this week, obviously you're not getting a little chalk on there. You're taking the eraser from back in elementary school and you're putting it in your mouth. I mean, this 9 car's got to expect that they've got to go out there and win this race. So finding a good number on the 9 is going to be damn near impossible this week.
Yeah, you kind of just have to hope he qualifies. Like, I'd rather just I haven't yet, but I'm considering just if I want a little Saturday sweat to potentially lay down on the qualifying fastest qualifier Chase. I think he's about plus 240, plus 250. He's tied for the most polls in the series so far. Like, if I'm looking to attack Chase, I think it's on Saturday and not Sunday.
And you kind of wouldn't hate if he blows a corner in his qualifying lap and starts 15th, because I still think he'll have the speed to get to the front, and then you got hopefully better odds before the race and maybe some differential points in DFS.
Yeah,
I know that the books would be tempted by that, though. I don't think it'd affect the number a whole lot, but I do think you see just a teensy bit of movement that makes it look a little bit better. You clap that eraser first, a little teensy bit before you shove it in your mouth.
All right, I'm gonna throw out my long shot. This is the only outright I'm down on right now. Like I said, probably to take my other outright. It might be MTJ, it might be Chase, but I'm gonna wait until after practice qualifying. I'm going Joey Logano, 50 to 1 on Barstool. I think that is a very 50 to 1 on Barstool, and you can get him for a top 5 over on Caesars. So we're flipping sports books, but 6 to 1 for a top 5. This is a guy, 31% top 5 rate here at this track, 3rd last season. All the advanced analytics I went over earlier in the show as well. Top 3, top 4. He ran great at Sonoma, the one veteran-friendly road course we've seen, finished 3rd.
Yeah,
I think this is a misprice, boys. I really do. Like, I don't think it's a typo that someone missed a number that on this like they did Todd, but I really think like I'm on both those. Like, if it doesn't hit, it doesn't hit. But if it hits, man, like we're all going to be looking back and saying we should have been on Joey Logano at 50 to 1.
Yeah, I don't hate that for sure. All right, we're sneaking in toward the placement props here. The 2 that I have, I'm going to go with a couple of these combo odds boosts that Caesars brings out. I think the 9 and the 34 being in the top 5.
Yes.
That's a plus 450 over on Caesars. And again, hard to find a good bet on the 9. I think there you got a good one. I think McDowell is going to keep it up. Seeing them both in the top 5. If we have a race that's like Indy, where there's not a lot of chaos, the guys who qualify up front run up front. This is all but a slam dunk to have both of these guys end up in the top 5 if things go as expected.
If this doesn't hit, I feel like McDowell gets 6th or 7th or something and is right outside there. But
or Larson bumps Chase again,
Yeah. Rod, how do you feel about this? Because I am 100% down. I'll talk a little bit more about why I like Michael McDowell in just a minute. But Chase, number 1 in the traditional road courses since 2022, 7th in total speed ranking here last year, finished 4th. Again, got bumped around by Kyle Larson a little bit. 67% top 5 rate. That's what I love. Average finish of 5.7. So it's really the gamble on McDowell, if anything. How do you feel about him coming off a huge win for his team?
Well, that's exactly how I feel. The risk is all on McDowell's side of this. And I don't know. I feel iffy because we've seen a backup strong performance out of guys like Chris Buescher in back-to-back weeks. But, I mean, that was sort of a feel-good situation. I don't know if I trust McDowell to come up with a top 10 all day long. I'll take McDowell top 10 all day long. I think he's definitely put himself in that conversation. But top 5 is a little bit tough for me. And even his top 10's number is not even good at -160.
Sorry, just real quick on McDowell. I think this is where, we've been watching a while. We're still picturing the same guy that was in, the Prison Motorsports number 55 or crashing in the Michael Waltrip Racing 00. This is an experienced McDowell. This is a different McDowell. This is a better team. I'm fine with having a little more faith in this 34.
And I get it. Like I said, I don't hate it. I just,
top 5 is really tough. I feel you there.
I just want to say, Michael McDowell has been hitting the fucking gym. This guy looks like a fucking weapon out there. Like, honest to God, he looks good, dude. Like, he has honestly been putting the work in the sim, on the track, in the weight room. And he even said, he was on Denny Hamlin's podcast earlier this week, and he said on that, 2 things really pissed me off coming into last week. He said SVG winning at Chicago. He said, not taking away anything, but that pissed him off. That shouldn't have happened. And then Denny Hamlin last week, he said something about Michael McDowell. I think he took SVG over him or something.
There was something on the pod where I think it was McDowell and Chase, where he was like, his producer said, do you really think McDowell can get in over Chase? And Denny was like, yeah, newsflash, Chase is good at fucking road courses. And
yes.
McDowell did back and was like, oh, we'll see if we prove it wrong. And then Denny was like, yeah, man, prove me wrong. So that's how he ended up on the show. There was a little bit of controversy there.
And Yes, and I like McDowell this week, honestly, because it's exactly what you said. Like, McDowell proved a point to Denny that McDowell's been one of the best road course racers since we've been in this next-gen car, going back to 2022, number 2 in total speed rankings, number 2 in green flag speed, 3rd in late run speed. We have a sample size of 9 races right now. And, like, that goes right into my top 10 because – I know we laid the juice last week on Chris Buescher, -160, and we might as well have been at a fucking Java juice because we paid it, baby. We paid it. But
that's
we're going
Julius we drank, yeah.
Yes. We're going back though, right again. I'm getting some Mott's juice this week. -160, which I think is a really good number on him over at Caesars for a top 10. I'm also going to sprinkle some on the 12-1 outright over there at Caesars as well. Just a little bit, just a little sprinkle. But with McDowell, like he's mostly -200 or worse at a lot of books. So I think -160 at Caesars felt like a very good price for him there. So Rod, what do you have that we haven't talked about in the placement props? We can get off the Michael McDowell soapbox a little bit.
All right. Well, if it took you guys forever to convince me Michael Dowell, it's going to take me forever to convince anybody about Kyle Busch rather. Kyle Busch top 3 is boosted to +425 on Caesars. It's again, that this is a tough thing for Kyle Busch right now to have the type of season that he's having right now. We are not that far removed from a Kyle Busch who has a string of top 5s, a string of top 10s, right? Every time I would bring Kyle Busch's name up, I would always say, and he's having a disappointing, and then I'd look at the numbers, and I'd be like, well, shit, he finished 5th place last year or last week. How can that be disappointing? Kyle Busch, that's disappointing. So I'm telling you right now that if this is an opportunity for Kyle Busch to turn things around, he has got this thing circled. He's got this starred. He's got this put, all the stickers that he can around it. He set every phone alarm on there for this. He wants this race to go well for him. So +425 for a top 3. I feel that's not bad, especially given the fact that as his top 3 unboosted, as I scroll all the way up for his top 3 unboosted price is, what is it? Wow, why am I not finding it?
Well, hey, while you look, I'll just say that I don't hate this either. Obviously he was running top 5 on the strategy before his issue happened last week. And my other placement bet that I had that was a odds boost grouping on Caesars was Kyle Busch, Tyler Reddick, and Alex Bowman all in the top 10 at +400. And again, all 3 of those guys, they've got the road course speed, they've got the road course acumen to do it. Just a matter of all 3 of them hitting right.
Yeah, he's at plus 375 unboosted, so you get 50 points more if you take that boost. So I like that better than plus 375.
For sure. For sure.
I don't mind it at all. Let's go ahead. Let's go to head-to-heads and groups. I can kick it off here if you guys want. I'm going to take, no doubt about it, Joey Logano. He is favorited here versus Rod and Nick's beloved Kevin Harvick, and I'm all about it here. Minus 130, so a little bit of juice, but not terrible over at Barstool. I've already talked about Joey Logano, but Kevin Harvick, I do not think, like, this is the one time I feel very comfortable fading him. He has a win here, but just a 14% top 5 rate, one Xfinity win. Finished decent last year in 11th, but had the 21st best total speed, 27th green flag speed. When you look at the season on these road courses, it just has not been the number 4 cars season. 26 in total speed rankings at road courses this season, no top 10s, 23rd last week. This is just a time, like, I feel very confident in Joey Logano placing somewhere in that top 10, maybe a top 5 is what I'm banking on, maybe wins it. And Harvick to me is just so far away from that. I put 2 units down. I usually don't get too crazy with my unit allocation and matchups, but I'm laying 2 down on Joey Logano here.
That's bold, especially after it was not his best week at the Indy road course. But again, Sonoma and the Glen, he's raced on a lot more than any of the others.
Yeah.
So
we got Nick saying, I love Harvick. Fade him this week.
Hey, we had him in the D's. I mean, I don't know that we've never faded Kevin Harvick harder in the history of this show, Seth. So
Yes. Rod, anything else head-to-heads or groups that you enjoyed out there on the books this week?
I know this is juicy, but this is one that I think is going to cash. Like my buddy Cody says, you only pay the juice if you lose. Minus 140 for Denny Hamlin over Austin Cindric. I can't take the Cindric side of this, even if it is plus 120. I'm just saying I don't know why it's here because casual bettors are going to look at Austin Cindric, go probably back to the track history and go, oh, Austin Cindric's been good here. But they forget that Austin Cindric is not necessarily the best. So Denny Hamlin still has a lot to prove, even though he's been able to do well all season long. I think he has a solid run this week, and I definitely think it's going to be better than Austin Cindric.
Yeah, no objections here, even though I've got a little bit of faith in Cindric. I mean, Hamlin over Cindric seems like a slam dunk unless that 2 car just shoots out of a damn cannon.
Yeah, I mean, 50% top 10 rate for Denny Hamlin here. He's been very solid. There's a world this goes like Chicago Street and chaos breaks out and Austin Cindric's in front of him. But unless chaos happens, I think Denny Hamlin easily passes him. What sportsbook was that on, Rod? Because that's enticing to me a little bit as well.
That was on Superbook. So for those of you with Superbook.
Come on, Pennsylvania. Let's go, baby. We need you.
Here we go. We need to write a letter to the governor. Put it on the ballot this fall. Legalize Superbook.
Come on, Shapiro. We need you, baby. We need you, Josh. Elliot, anything else here that we haven't touched on, head-to-heads or groups that you're looking at as we head to the Glen?
The numbers aren't necessarily my favorite because they're all kind of the favorites in the race. But Group G on Caesars has Daniel Suarez as the favorite at plus 200. And then Christopher Bell, Kyle Busch, and Michael McDowell, all at plus 260. I'm really tempted to take McDowell here, but I kind of hear arguments for anybody in this group. I think it'll be an intriguing one to watch and one that should be fun because they all should be near the front and not one of these groups you pick out that they're all running 27th.
I love those ones. Those are my favorite groups.
They're fun in their own way, but I mean, it's also fun to watch and be like, oh, hey, this guy's going to be in second place now and also first in my group.
Yeah. I get anxious when I take those bets with a lot of front runners up there. So I can't get on it, but I do agree that I think McDowell should be a little bit lower of a number on that compared to the other 3 that he was right up there with as well. So yeah, I don't mind you playing the number. And again, I like McDowell. I'm on the outright a little bit. I'm trying for a top 10 here with that one boost as well that you're on. So yeah, I don't mind the number 34, but some big names there. Anything in specials that we haven't covered for you, Rod? I right now I'm kind of maxed out. I like that Chase McDowell one that Elliot shouted out. I'm on that 4.5 to 1. Anything else that you're seeing out there?
Well, I love me some number bets. And this week I will say I'm going to hedge off of what I said on the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. So go listen to that, find out what I said there. But this is my hedge off of that because this was not available to us earlier in the week. Under 11.5 is actually a plus 120 right now. Obviously, that gives you both of the Hendrick cars, right? Larson and Elliot, and it gives you Hamlin. You get 3 cars at plus 120 to win this race that can very easily come out and possibly win this race. And
You got
Chastain
Rowdy in there too. You got
and Rowdy.
you know
That's a
you got
stack.
Corey LaJoy and Ross Chastain in there too.
Cindric, baby. Don't forget about
Got
Cindric.
Cindric, Austin Dillon, and our boy Harvick.
Brad, you were high on Brad
Yep.
too. On
Brad Keselowski. There you
was
go.
that a Caesars one as well, or is that your other
that's
sports?
No, that's a Caesars one. So winning
Okay.
car. I initially gave out, and you can go back and listen to the whole scenario, over 21.5, which was at plus 210 on Caesars. That is actually no long. Oh, that is there still. And that's at plus 210. So you could take that. But I also think a good hedge, if you like any of those Hendrick guys, at plus 120, under 11.5 as well.
I like the under 11.5 way better for sure.
I like both. Honestly. I'm intrigued though. I like that. Elliot, anything? I know you kind of dive into the top manufacturers market quite a bit. Anything over there? Anything else that we haven't touched on that you're enjoying this week?
I do dive into that again this week because Chevrolet is minus 115 on Caesars, and I think that is absolutely ridiculous. So I think you've got some value on Toyota at plus 200 and on the Fords again at plus 380 if you got some faith in them. Seth, you're big on Logano this week. Maybe that's
And
worth
McDowell. Yeah.
McDowell's in there. Keselowski's in there. Toyotas, you got the Gibbs boys. You got Tyler Reddick in there. I understand that Chase and Larson are the favorites, and I have a Larson bet that I'm going to say next. But to have a manufacturer at minus 115 just feels absolutely asinine to me. But they're really high on the
especially they haven't won in a while, right? Like it's been like what I don't know the last Chevy to win. I think it was before Pocono, right?
in a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. They have to price it that way, but it has been a couple weeks for Chevy here, so I don't mind, honestly. I didn't realize Ford was that far the other way there. Oh man, we got to go all the way back to Atlanta, July 9th. It's been over a month since the Chevy's been in victory lane. So
You got it up quicker than me. Good job, Seth.
yeah. Thank the internet, baby. Yeah. So I don't mind that at all. Rod, would you put any faith into one of these buckets with a manufacturer looking at the numbers that Elliot just threw out there?
I think Chevy is the right bet this week. I think a Chevy is going to end up winning this, but I also don't mind so much if you do put something on Toyota at plus 200. Because again, I think that Reddick could win this race quite easily. And Truex has a really good shot at it too. So, yeah.
Alfred in the chat again. If you like Chevy, then Hendricks plus 150 looks better. Yeah, I'm 100% with you there. Like I'm not.
What book is that on, Alfred?
Yes, yeah. Let us know where you're.
I see those oftentimes on Barstool, so that would be my guess. But regardless, I do like that a heck of a lot better for sure.
Like when just looking back at our tiers real quick, like the best Chevy we have outside the Hendricks boys are all the way down at 16 with AJ.
Yeah.
Looks like it. Yeah, and even honest to God, I think he's even rated a little bit.
Suarez. We got Suarez. I guess Suarez could do something. But yeah. All right. What else, Elliot? I think you had one more for us. Caesars.
Okay, yeah. I must have missed that then. Thanks, Alfred. The other one I have, if you're around Saturday watching Xfinity, Ty Gibbs winning the Xfinity race and Larson taking the Cup race is plus 2,500. Obviously, it's tough to parlay these. It's tough to have guys who aren't necessarily the bona fide favorites. But both those guys ended up in victory lane is very reasonable for plus 2,500 for sure.
They're fun as hell to ride. Like, let's just say that. Like even at Pocono, I laid the juice on that truck race for Rowdy, and then I was going in with the Rowdy ticket. Would have been a nice parlay hit. Mm-hmm. Did it come to fruition? Hell no. Rowdy had a terrible day. But was it fun? I felt so energized. So yeah, if you're looking for some fun, like dual series, yeah, I absolutely recommend. Just at least don't get crazy with something like that. Maybe a quarter of a unit, maybe a tenth of a unit.
Whenever I bet these, that's all I put on is a little bit of a sprinkle. I put a sprinkle on last week for Allmendinger and whoever it was for Cup, maybe Chase or somebody. It didn't pay off, obviously, but need to throw a little sprinkle on because you can make a good bet. Make even probably a week of bets for me, putting my low amount of money that I do on bets. I can make a whole week up right there if you hit that.
Yeah. Before we close out, boys, I just want to shout out the in-between audience, the IBT family, as we call them. They've been so strong lately. The channel has seen so much growth, as well as the website. We had our draft night out, our live drafting event for fantasy football here in Canton last week. Sold out, like beyond our expectations, and so many kind people saying how much they love our content and that they love that what we do is a little bit different here. So we appreciate you guys so much for following along and just helping support us, man. Like doing the little things, giving videos likes and thumbs up and subscribing. Like I know it sounds dumb and every YouTuber asks for that, but it really does help. It's that little stuff. So just want to thank you guys for supporting us and helping us live our dreams out here. It means a lot.
Yeah. Seth, shout out to you two and the whole team, the whole football team at In Between Media. You know, I've been here since basically the beginning of this site. It's been a fun ride to watch, and just seeing the growth of this, you know, obviously thanks to everybody who's supporting, but don't discount the work that these guys put into it. It's really fun to watch, and I'm really proud of everybody on this team for sure.
Thank you, brother. Yeah. And I felt that gratitude a couple weeks ago as well when you and I were up at Pocono and had that experience. So it has been an unbelievable year here. It has been a rocket ship of a year here. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Elliot, for hosting each and every week. And Rod, thank you for coming along this ride as well, my friend. Like the energy you bring here each and every week, like from people out in Canton, they were talking about Rod. You know, he wasn't there, but all the fantasy football industry loves Rod. The NASCAR betting industry loves Rod. So Rod, tell us where we can support you in addition to here at IBT, man.
Well, thank you very much for all of that. Of course, it warms my heart, but you can find me in about 10 minutes, actually. Well, I'm not going to be live, but recording the NASCAR Gambling Podcast. Go check out me and Cody over there 5 nights a week. We got you. F1 taking a week off, so are we. But of course, make sure to check out my my fast money contributions for frequency's sake out there as well. But if you want it all, I'm on X at RJ Villagomez. There's a link in the bio. Everything I got going on over there, you can find it. And of course, I'll post what I'm doing. So yeah, thanks guys for so much for this. I, again, always love talking NASCAR, always love being on with you guys and having all of these folks stick around with us the entire show. It's humbling.
Yeah, Rod, we're certainly grateful to have you. You're beloved by the NASCAR industry, the football industry, the CFL industry, and even now by the women's soccer industry. You know, this man.
I don't know about the women's soccer one. They might not like Rod.
They hate me, and that's fine. I'm okay. I'm the heel there.
The World Cup isn't even over yet, and the U.S. coach is already out. So it didn't go as expected for any of us. Don't worry. But all right, so this has been a fun one. Best of luck on your bets at the Glen. My busy season is starting up, so I'm a little more sporadic out the next couple of weeks. But I know that Seth and Rod and the team will have us all covered, riding on down the back road each and every week. Grateful you come along with us, and we will see you again next week for Daytona and the last chance.